Prior to grade 5, I hadn't experienced too much in the way of peer pressure. Maybe just like slight little bits of it. Like in grade 2, when my friend Elise handed me a tube of lipstick and insisted that she teach me how to make out with a pillow. And after which I kind of like declined, and then she was like, "Oh, it's okay that we go back to playing Barbies." Or grade 4, when my friend Christina put on Salt and Peppa's Shoop and proceeded to take her top off and sing along with the lewd lyrics. She was cool with the fact that I did not want to, and then I just sit there and watch Ace Ventura: Pet Detective on TV. At the time, it was really nice to have these friends, and we very much coexisted happily. But in grade 5, all of that changed with the introduction of a certain friend. We'll call her Tara. So Tara, first day, grade 5, arrived. She's a new girl in class. Her family had just moved to Oakville. And she was, I don't know if you guys, like, she was suspiciously confident for the new kid in class. And but at the same time, I got over that because she liked a lot of the same things that me and my other friends liked. She loved listening to the Dance Mix compilation cassette tapes. And she also wanted to play hide and go seek and Red Rover as much as I did. So I quickly got over that like suspiciously confident grade 5 new girl thing and moved on, and also noted some other great traits. She was really creative and she was charming, but she was also cunning. And at the time, I didn't know what that would mean. So we become fast friends, and soon I'm invited over to her family's house for supper. And usually this point is the really exciting point when you're a kid and you're making this friendship and you're going to have this out of school date. And but she delivered the invitation with a caveat. Tara said, "I want my mother to like you, so please make sure that your clothes match and that they don't have animals on them." That was like really problematic because at the time, like 97% of my wardrobe was, well, you all know probably, those like Northern Getaway outfit sets. Or better yet, like the byway cheaper versions of them. And so I didn't even know what to do. Like, honestly, I looked at my closet and was all like peaceful cats, horses in fields, or like dogs riding polar bears, like whatever people came up with. That was on all of my clothing. And so I presented the dilemma to my mother. I was like, "Oh, I need like plain clothes and match." And she was like, "Who the fuck are these people?" Well, she did say, I was 10. She didn't say fuck to me. But that's what she was thinking. Like, obviously, my parents had bigger things to worry about than replacing my wardrobe. And so I was on my own. And I went to my closet and I started to separate things out. And once I removed all the patterns and animals, I came up with just like some plain colored clothes that like the tops and bottoms never matched. And the only things that matched were black. And so, and also, I mean, at the time I was so young and I hadn't had to think about it yet, right? Like outfits, you don't need to think about complementary color matching. And so I showed up to this dinner in all black. And but luckily, Tara's mother received me in my funeral garb with a smile. And and I was in like their beautiful house, and soon enough we heard like a car rumbling coming into the driveway, and I joined her and her entire family as we walked out to the doorstep to greet her father as he rolled in his silver Lexus, and then we all went inside, and her mother starts like laying out the food, and her father grabs a modest glass of red wine and he puts some Bach on the stereo. And then we go into the kitchen, and I'd never seen full place settings before. Whatever, that's from my family. And so I was like, "What are all these forks and spoons?" But I didn't say that. Instead, I cleverly sat down, and as they all talked about their days, I like carefully followed which fork belonged with which dish, and made it through that dinner. that 4-course dinner, and it was lovely. And at the end of the night, my father came and he picked me up in his clunky 1986 blue Ford Aerostar van, and we drove off. And to me, that was successful. I was like, sweet. I was accepted, and that had some greater statement about my closet. So I went home and I like pushed all of the animals to the back, and then the plain other colors, and all the black was at the front. And so began my dark phase of grade 5. I swear to you, I wore black all year because I thought that was like the way to be like classy or something, according to Tara's lifestyle. So as for the natural progression of childhood friendship, my parents invited Tara over for a sleepover a couple weeks later. Tara shows up. We dig into the utensil drawer. We each grab one spoon and one fork, and we eat our 1-course meal of spaghetti and meatballs, and it's lovely. And my parents, Friday night, they want to let loose, so they go and get drunk in the living room and put on Billy Joel records. And Tara and I go upstairs to my room, and we play Slumber Party board game, which I thought was awesome at the time. And it's the one, I don't know if anybody, but the one with like the curlers, and you're playing Truth or Dare, and you need to put curlers in your hair if you don't like. I forget the rule. Whatever. And I still remember like very fondly hearing Uptown Girl playing up from downstairs, and Tara and I jumping on my bed. And to me, that was like the most ideal slumber party ever. But obviously not to Tara, who went to school the next week and told everyone that my parents were weird and they were drunks, and that I was weird because I like Billy Joel. And she also insulted Slumber Party and was like, Dream Phone's way better. And she told my entire class that I still slept with a nightlight, as was just revealed. And she told them all that it was bear-shaped. And they all laughed and laughed. And that was really humiliating. This is the point at which I should have been like, no more to this friendship. But I was like young and confused, and it was really muddled in my head. So instead, I hated my nightlight, even though I still needed it. And I hated Billy Joel, and I hated Byway. I hated everything. And I also started to resent my parents. And I feel so bad because it was to the point where the next weekend, when we were going out for dinner, and my dad showed up downstairs in his cowboy boots, I put up a tantrum because I was like, Tara's dad wouldn't wear cowboy boots. He would wear black slick dress shoes for dinner. And then I was like, I just like hated Canadian Chinese food buffet. And I was like, Tara's family wouldn't go to the Mandarin. They would go to like a fancy restaurant and use many forks. And I also hated the fact that we were listening to the Eagles on the way to the restaurant. I was like, Don Henley, we should be listening to Bach. And so obviously, like, I was just like the worst kid ever. And this had obviously spawned like a whole lot of like all this peer pressure, a lot of insecurity and anger. But nonetheless, I continued on in this friendship despite the teasing. And she actually introduced me to a number of firsts, like when Tara suggested that I pushed the twins from our class into a weird hole that existed in our schoolyard. I did. And when she suggested that I stand outside of the hole and shout lovers at them, I did. And then that resulted in my first ever call to the office for bad behavior. Tara also influenced my first sort of kiss because Tara introduced kissing tag to our school. So Tara was like, oh, you totally got to chase Rob. And I really didn't want to chase Rob. Rob at the time was my like big grade 5 crush. And I did not want to chase Rob at all. But I did. I chased and he ran and he ran. And I chased and he ran. He was a runner. And but like and it was like too much for my like grade 5 legs. And I chased him. And eventually though, like I mean it was clear I was never catching up, but I couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop because I'd be made fun of. And so I lunged at him. And I ended up kissing him on his giant ear mole. And like, fair, like I have moles, fine. But like I kissed him on his giant ear mole and then I fell onto the ground. And it was obviously super humiliating for both of us. In fact, it's in my diary as an entry from April 26, 1995, all in capital letters. I quote myself. I do not have a crush on Rob. 10 exclamation marks. Not anymore. 5 exclamation marks. There was a fight. Infinitesimal exclamation marks. I was obviously very upset. So that happened. Tara also introduced the crush survey, which I didn't know what that was before. So in our class, there was 28 people, 14 boys, 14 girls. And she distributed a piece of paper with all of our names on it. And you were supposed to check beside whoever you had a crush on. When it came back to her, she had 14 check marks and I had 1. And I was so upset. I was crushed. Because I was like, is this the ear mole incident? And I had so many insecurities. I was like, is this Byway? Is this Billy Joel? Is this my nightlight? I hated everything about my life because I was like, only one person has a crush on me. I must be more like Tara. Very crushing. End of grade 5 comes and my mom is like, there's no way in hell you are wearing all black to your graduation ceremony. And so she sends me out in this denim jumper dress and white ruffled blouse and one of those Blossom hats. I don't know if you, so you know Blossom from TV. And so I had this floppy hat and this upturned brim and this flower and the hat was white and I showed up at ceremony feeling kind of good being in colors for once and Tara was wearing a similar Blossom hat and she blamed me for copying her and that's the last that we spoke for the summer because she went to camp and I hung out on my street. So during the summer, obviously I couldn't wear black the entire time because it's too hot. And so I slowly went back to colors and I saw Tara again on the first day of grade 6 at our new school. I was walking down the hallway and I saw her strawberry glowing hair coming from the other way and I smiled excitedly. And but she grimaced and she looked at my pink fuzzy sweater t-shirt and she said, senior school girls don't wear pink. And she scoffed and walked away from me and I was so upset. I started wearing black again, obviously, because I'm such a dink. And then finally, it was brief because 2 weeks later on recess, I found her and another one of my best friends. Everyone's your best friend, but another one of my besties at the time, hiding out in a corner behind a boiler unit, which is a weird thing that seems super cool at the time, but is obviously super weird. And they were standing there. I said hi, and then Tara just started cackling. Actually, both of them were, but Tara extra loud. And honestly, with the most shit-eating grin that I've ever seen on a child before, she was like, "We started psychology club without you." That was a major burn because her and I had conspired this the previous year, and this was ours, and she just cackled so loudly, and I looked down and they had matching notebooks and matching pens and they were so excited about their psychology club. And she continued on and she looked at me and so cruel and she was like, you can't be a part of it, but you can be our first subject. And I thought about it. I almost I was going to be her subject to become friends again. But then luckily her cackle was so sharp and the look in her face so putrid that it finally shook me out of my victim's daze. And that afternoon I walked away from the dark boiler unit corner and those girls and my first ever truly toxic friendship. And so ended my dark phase of grade 5. And there was a brief reprieve from dark clothing and acting like an asshole to my parents. Of course, later followed by more dark phases in my teenage years, but that was that. Thank you.